meetings. You're allowed to comment on any matter under consideration prior to a final vote. If you have something to say, raise your hand and the chair will recognize you. There are also 2 public comment periods, one at the start of the meeting and one at the end. Any person addressing the committee is limited to 3 minutes. However, a group may have a single spokesperson who will be allowed 10 minutes. The committee will receive written information from any individuals or groups that cannot conclude their presentations within these limitations. If you would like to have an item discussed in more detail as part of our agenda, we ask that you speak with a member of the committee in order to have that item addressed during our next meeting. Thank you for your attendance. Your input is valued. So yeah, afternoon, everybody. So we got a pretty good list of stuff to do today, so we'll just go ahead and get right into it. I guess we can introduce ourselves real quick. I'm Dana Williams, filling in for Saber as chair, current vice chair, and we can start over here.
I'm Harvey. I'm a retired veteran, retired here in Asheville.
Molly Swanger.
Paul Rosebeck.
Kim Roney, also on the Multimodal Transportation Commission, filling in for Thomas as secretary.
Elizabeth Medlock.
Barry Ryan, the GM.
Jessica Morris, Assistant Director of Transportation for the City of Asheville.
Eunice Lovey, City of Asheville, Transit Planning Manager.
Awesome, okay. So we got a few things to review over here. Is everyone taking a look at the agenda for today and have any issues with it?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Second.
Okay, all right. All in favor of approving? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, so we get the second.
Now we ask questions.
Oh, okay, so yeah, does anyone have any questions over this? My apologies, I totally was ready to jump into that. No? All right, all approved?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes unanimously. All right, so we have the same thing with the minutes going on. Is anyone taking a look at those over yet?
So I want to say thank you to Thomas, because I'm now taking the minutes since he's not here, and he always does a really great job, and I will motion to approve.
Second? All right, do we have any questions on the minutes before moving into the vote?
Can I make one suggestion on the minutes? I suggest adding a section at the end that's kind of actionable items, because they're hard to find because they're buried. So like Kim requested something at the last, Jeff requested something, I requested something, but they get buried. So we can have some like items requested or actionable items that are pulled out and put at the minute and bullet.
Like priority items?
Correct. So that way, yeah. That's great. Just a recommendation.
Okay.
For future minutes.
Any other questions then? All right, vote to approve
Aye.
Aye.
and vote opposed. All right, passes unanimously. Okay, I already did the explanation of public comment, so I don't have to worry about that. So we'll just move right into the public comment. Anyone have anything to say? If you will, just come right up to the mic and we'll form a little line. Who wants to go first? I think she's offering you.
Hi, my name is Matthew Suppley. Have a few comments to make. First, there are safe drivers that have no traffic infractions. And then there are safe drivers that have no traffic infractions, and they think about the safety of the passengers. I say this because a couple of weeks ago, I was on a bus, and from the time we left the terminal to the time we got to the mission, everybody on the bus got to change seats without choice because the driver was braking so hard. I brought this to the attention of Sam, the training and safety director. When he was supervisor, he was great. He listened. He tried to work with both the bus people and the passengers. Sam told me there's still some bugs to be worked out on this smart driver system that y'all have. I hope that it doesn't turn out to be kind of like the electric buses, because I had my doubts about the electric buses when I first heard about them, because there was one driver pointed out, well, they got them in San Francisco. Well, San Francisco has straight roads. They have hilly roads, but they have straight roads. They don't have the off-camber turns and stuff. So I questioned it. But the smart driver, Sam explained a little bit about it to me, and he told me there's still some bugs that need to be worked out. And I think, for one, you definitely need to get the speed limits set on certain areas because, like I say, there are safe drivers, and then there are safe drivers that think about the passengers. When a driver is doing 50 miles an hour on Emma Road and it's 35 miles an hour, that's not safe. And that was the third time before I called Sam on it because I commented as I'm riding the bus. Turned off Bingham Road onto Emma Road, 30, 35, 40, 45. And I looked at the driver, and the way he was looking at me, I had to tell him right out, don't look at me like that. Because I think if he'd had a dagger or a chance to get up and swing at me, he would have. So, that being said, like I say, Sam does his best to take care of things. But I hope the little niches that you have in this smart driver get worked out soon. Because this isn't the only driver that I've been on bus. This has been about a month and a half ago, before y'all had the smart driver. W4, bus driver's going so fast, I'm standing out in front of Disability Partners, was standing there when we went out Lester Highway, had a bright orange shirt on, I waved, make sure he could see me. He's coming back, he's going so fast, he's passing cars in the left-hand lane. And that stretch of Lester Highway is dangerous. I mean, Lester Highway is dangerous, period. But that particular area in front of the hotspot is dangerous. He, almost to the second driveway before he managed to get the bus stopped. I felt bad for the people on the bus. Well, then I'm getting on the bus with my service dog, and I didn't even have time to sit down. He takes off, slams me against the wall. I don't know. I understand he's been kind of talked to about.
Just a little bit. It's been about 3 minutes.
Well, there was one comment that was made about ashtrays at the bus stops. Some bus stops do have ashtrays connected to the trash cans. I used to sit in front of West Buncombe BP years ago. People fling it out. There's ashtrays in front of the door on both sides of the doors. So, you know, there are very few. In the service, we were taught to field strip our cigarettes. Tobacco out, put it in your pocket. Not everybody's going to do that either, because I've seen people right before they step on the bus and throw it down. So ashtrays, they'd be nice if people use them, but I don't think they'd use them. And that's about all I got to say because I burned up my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out.
All right, who's next? I believe it was you.
I ain't done this before. I'm Tammy Haney. I drive. My concern is the rules with your strollers, with your packages for groceries. I have a big issue with the fact that they want to keep their child in the stroller, and people think this is okay. I mean, if you're worried about somebody eating and drinking on a bus, why would you not worry about somebody's child being in something with wheels on it? I think that is very dangerous, not only for the child, but for the other passengers. If you got 50 people, 40 people on a bus with 2 strollers and 2 bags full of groceries, somebody's going to get hurt. And that's my biggest concern. We have to, I mean, right now we're having problems with everybody's cussing us, everybody's threatening us, everybody's throwing stuff at us, everybody's slamming on brakes. You know, we're watching in our mirrors because somebody that just cussed us is now having to ride the bus. So now we're watching in the mirror to make sure this person's not going to hit us in the back of the head while we're watching this girl over here with a stroller going to sleep with their child in the stroller. We've got a lot of other things to worry about outside that bus. We would like someone to help us keep it safe in the bus. It'd be great.
All right, thank you. You got something to say? Okay.
Hi, Diane Allen, bus operator as well. I second everything that Tammy said, but I want to add to that with the strollers. I know we've had a lot of talk about it, and there's a rider's guide out there, or was out there. It's still posted on our bulletin board at work. But I think that if you allow them to get on the bus with the stroller, but remove that child and break that stroller down, there's a lot of confusion between what rules the city is wanting RATP Dev to honor. And so that's causing a lot of aggravations, not just the drivers. We're trying to do the best for our people that we see every day and accommodate them to the best of our ability. But between the city and RATP Dev, y'all make it very, very difficult. It's frustrating to the management, it's frustrating to the city, and it's very frustrating to us. Weapons policy, still, last month I came here and asked where we were on the weapons policy. Still no weapons policy yet. So you have people walking down the platform with machetes and knives, and then you have the guy that was banned from our bus on Sunday for fighting. He goes up on Haywood Street and he stabs somebody in the throat. That could have been one of us. This is a need. This should be top priority. We deserve the protection just as anybody else, whether you're behind a seat driving, if you're a passenger, or if you're a manager behind your desk. We deserve the protection, because it's not just the people on the bus we got to worry about. If you want to look up all the attacks happening across the country in Canada, you will see what I'm talking about. Tampa, Florida, just a few months ago, driver stabbed because he challenged the fare. Told the passenger, said, hey, man, the fare is $2. He didn't make it home that day. I want to make it home. See that little bitty boy back there? I want to make it home. I'm all he's got. The people on that bus, their families expecting them to get home. Put this a priority. What's it going to take? Is it going to take a death in Asheville to get something done? No. You have a weapons policy for your city property here. It should be the same policy for these city buses. Your emblem's on there. RATP Dev's emblem's not on there, and neither is ATU. Our advertisement isn't on that bus. It's the city. So you're putting our public and our taxpayers at liability. I will carry this on to the City Council meeting on Tuesday. But between the committee and the multimodal, y'all can push this forward a whole lot faster than we can. They're not going to listen to a driver. Push it. Month after month, I have to come to these meetings. Month after month, the same thing. It's a broken record. I'm tired of preaching to the choir. Do something, protect us, because transit lives matters too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that one. We'll have the next one come up.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Sandy Aldridge. I agree with what she said. Drivers need to be protected. Us riders need to be protected. We are taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer. I just want to let you know updates about things. I still haven't been seen by a physician from the injury in April because I don't have health insurance. And I finally got a call from Barry 3 months after it happened, and he gave me insurance company's number, and I called them, and they said they were investigating it. Well, I do my own investigation too, because the driver that did that to me in April, I was sitting at the transit station on a bench. He came from the building from the inside, walked by me with a very mean look on his face, walked up to the top, right where the condos are up there, walked back slowly, stood by me on his phone for about 10 minutes, and I got it all on video. So considering that people in the office are quick to call the police on things that are not even needed a lot of times and ban people that should not be banned, I know what to do in this situation, because I will be showing the video to my mentor, Ms. Deborah Campbell, who is the city manager, and I will be sending the video to the new chief of police, Chris Bailey, and let them look at it and see what they think about it and see if he needs to be talked to again. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Does anyone else have anything else to say before we move on? Okay. All right, so we're going to go into our own rider experiences.
Before we move on,
Good.
just really quick, because I know we can't instruct the public, but we can like ask questions of the staff. The weapons policy has been on our agenda for months now.
I know.
What I'm curious about was when I was in Baltimore, I noticed, NDC, I noticed that the drivers have clear screens. What I'd like to know is if they were considered for new bus purchases, how much they would cost, and if the ATU 128 has been consulted on whether or not that's a good idea for our drivers as a safety measure. It's like they can open up the clear door as people are going on and off the bus, it's closed. So those are the things, like if the ATU 128 can be consulted, how much they would cost, and if they've been considered for new bus purchases. Thank you.
I can't answer the first question, but we can look into it. We can look into how much they cost.
Excuse me. All right, any other questions before we move on then? Okay. All right, so we're going to start with our rider experiences, and we can go with Harvey over here and just make our way around.
Okay. Like I said, my name's Harvey. I would like to reemphasize, I'm not going over every point that Diane and Tammy made, but we need to take a good hard look at what both these ladies have said, because the things that they did mention were definitely important. And I've already went over, before we started, they showed Barry some pictures of people sleeping at the station. And it gets back to one other thing, what I got from one driver that was at the station Saturday. They said, I was looking for security, and they told me security doesn't work on Saturday. And I've got different information from Barry on that, and I'm quite sure he's going to take care of that, because, you know, I showed him people sleeping at the bus station and all that. And that's, you know, also helping, you know, keep down, you know, people having weapons, and people that aren't supposed to be at the station that are just hanging around. And there's a lot of that. They just don't need to be hanging around. And then they also got a group that hangs at the top on the left side facing going up. And there's always a group right there every day. They just, you know, like that's their spot, that's their hangout, you know, that's their corner. You know, need to like bust that up, you know, so before something happens up there. And Saturday also came up, this guy, he just jumped out in front of the bus. The bus was done took out from his thing from down to the bottom, its position. And he started cussing, just, you know, to the top of his voice, you know, to the top of his lungs, you know, and that wasn't even called for. And there was no security around to get him out of the way of the bus, but he saw to get out of the way of the bus driver was not stopping. And, you know, he was like, the bus was like from me to Barry right here, you know, and he finally got out of the way. He saw the bus driver was not going to stop. But, you know, it was an escalated situation. And he was thinking the bus driver was supposed to stop after he done pulled out of his position, which he's not supposed to. The bus driver used to pull out, you know, so he has to keep, you know, keep on going. And moving on, the bus stop at Patton, I was out there this past week. The first bus stop is the foliage, it still hasn't been cut down, so you can see the bus stop right there. And I just want to mention that. And also I've got some feedback from individual bus drivers about dogs on the bus. What's our policy on dogs on the bus? Because a lot of homeless people, they bring the dogs out of the woods. They don't have shots. They're not bathed. And you know they're not, you know, a dog, you know, for comfort for individual. They're not trained. Are we supposed to let those dogs on the bus?
Yeah, there's basically two questions you can ask. Okay? Is that a service animal? And if the response is yes, what service does that dog provide? And if they say yes, and it provides comfort, that dog's allowed to ride. The issue becomes if that dog is not under control and is in any way aggressive, barking, not being under control. A service animal will be under control at all times.
That's right.
So if the dog becomes, shall we say this, not under control, then the driver can call for assistance and that person's not allowed to have that dog on.
But the issue, what I'm saying is this. You see they're standing on the side of the road. They're not clean, the dog's not clean.
That's
So
not
is
something
the
we
driver
can
supposed to
judge,
let
Harvey.
them on?
Harvey, we have no way to judge that. That's not, the policy is that a service animal?
But they get on the bus
Allowed.
anyway.
We can't,
Real quick, sir, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to save questions for the end right here. We only have the 2 periods, and we can get your question later. All right, sorry to interrupt y'all.
I know, okay. Yeah, okay, I just want to throw that on out there because that's the way it happens.
I
Yeah.
absolutely believe you and see
Yeah.
it and know it, and there's only a couple things that you can do.
And it's just not just on the side of the road, it happens at the station too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a people person. I came to Asheville here, recovering. I'm a recovering addict. And like I said, I'm a people person. I was recently in the Advancing Racial Equity and Inclusion, which we were supposed to go to. I believe Kim, she went, and I went. And found it to be very, it was very informative. Like I said, I'm a people person. And they have one, they were wanting us to come to the Racial Equity 201. And they have, one of them's already been held, and the next one is September the 18th. And I've already signed up for the one on September 18th. So I would like to throw that out there as far as, giving the date. And it's from 3 to 5 on September 18th.
And the Office of Equity Inclusion is hosting those, so if I can also say exactly right, it's very helpful, and we could certainly make that a retreat goal as well to get everybody on the transit committee to complete that training.
I went on to the first one and it was.
You did? Good. And also, like I said, I came here recovering, and I've had a good long process, like 2 years, 5 months, and 11 days clean and sober today. And during that time, this past Saturday, during that time, I've been in an ongoing thing at the VA and through the state of North Carolina. And as of Saturday, from the University of North Carolina, I am certified peer support specialist. And, it lets you know how to deal with people as far as, the habits that they have, drug addicts, alcoholism, they have nerve problems, any kind of problems that they might have. I'll be dealing with that, on a daily basis as far as being an intern right now, but I am certified in the state of North Carolina to do that now, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. I thank everyone also because they've helped me get information from you to help me in my mind to understand people and their thoughts and why they do certain things that they do. And the last thing, I was wanting to give out a shout out to the drivers of the E1, the S1, the W3, S3, and S6. They were outstanding this past month. And that's it for me.
Do you want to pull your mic towards you?
But it all comes down to approach and respect. You gotta know how to approach the people, and you gotta respect each other. And that is upon individuality. Some people just don't want to respect. Some people just don't want you telling them what to do. But the protection for the drivers, we do need, because I've seen some hostility. I've had to step in myself several times to stop confrontations, to stop fights down through the years. But like I said, it has to do with respect from one person to another. And you got to know how to approach. If you approach hostile, you'll get hostility. If you approach with kindness and respect and humbleness, you'll get what you're looking for. And I wanted to talk about also the new buses. And me, I think it was a good choice. It's a good ride. The old buses, the seats irritate me, so I put down paper and sent them. It's like sticking needles in my skin. I have very sensitive skin, but I like the new buses. The seats are easy. Like if you spill something in those seats, you can wipe it off easily. It's dry. That's it. You can put sanitizer on it. But if you drop on the other buses, you gotta wait till that seat dry. It catches that stain. Then the air condition. The air conditioner is like somebody's just blowing a light fan on you. So to me, the new buses are a comfortable ride. I mean, even with the speed, I think it was a good buy. I don't know how many you all bought. How many did you all buy?
5.
You bought 5. You know, people, some of us, not all of us, we don't do change quick. We don't do change easily. And sometimes you have people that gets into this old thing and that's what they want. They don't want to change, don't want to see advancement. But to me, those buses were a good choice. And I was wondering if you all had like a study of it from, like, for instance, what city has that bus? What city is using that bus? Could you take like Barry and this young lady and go to that city and have like a training or ride with the buses, see how they do when they fix the buses, when the buses break down, you know, just search it out, because I think it's an excellent choice. I really do. But that's my opinion. But training, seeing how they operate, because I was on one bus one day, it was going to E1, and it was raining. And the guy that does the work on the bus, he was there like 2 minutes flat. So they called him, and he met them where he was told him he was going to stop. But it didn't take other places that has used the buses before and just see what's going on. That's all.
Anything else to add? We're going
No,
to go
sir.
ahead and move on. Okay. Molly, you have anything to say?
I've been a little radio silent. I've been doing a lot of traveling, so nothing noteworthy with any of my rides. A couple app issues, but I didn't email them out because I've just been really, really swamped. But I will get those out in the next month and with some screenshots, and hopefully it will help resolve that issue.
Paul?
As I said, I'm still brand new at this, but we recently bought a house in the same neighborhood where we were renting. But, you know, to come downtown, I would take the W2 bus up by you know, the one just before it. And there wasn't anything to sit on or anything. That was okay, but it, you know, it was very visible and everything. But I've been trying to do the Davenport one, which is one closer, farther away.
Will you speak in your mic a little bit? So we really can't hear. Davenport one.
Yeah, the Davenport one, it was across the street, and I had to kind of struggle to find out where it was, because it was like, you know, between a couple of trees and some other things, you know. And I'm sure there are a lot of places like that. And I'm just suggesting that people, you know, over time, take a look at all of their bus stops and figure out, you know, what is needed. I think very recently they built a nice shelter across on the Haywood Road, across from the Eagles place. So we appreciate that. But otherwise, I'm just going to be kind of looking around for things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. I got a few things to bring up. I made sure to write them down so I didn't forget. So on Friday the 26th of last month, W1 and S1 are both running pretty late. We get there at about 8:06 at the same time. S1 comes in first, W1 runs right behind it. And we had already called for, mentioned that, you know, we might be there, but like, oh, we don't know if they're going to be there or not, so we'll just see what happens when we get there. So we get there at the exact same time. The guy, you know, he opens his door. It doesn't look like anybody's getting off on it, so I guess it was just traffic. But I hop out of W1 and start going after this S1. I start going after him because he'd already opened his door and then started driving off. And so I'm out there. He gets at the red light, which I mentioned two months ago about a situation that happened to someone else. So now he's at a red light, and I'm sitting there trying to wave at him because we literally just got there. I mean, the guy sees us getting out of the bus, and he's not looking at me, not looking at me, and then finally I just knock on the window, and he looks at me, and he opens the door, and goes off on how, you know, everyone had brought up about he had gotten in trouble twice before for letting people on during those exact situations, and said that his supervisor was always cracking down on him about that situation. I just wanted to say I wanted to thank him personally, because, yeah, that was the only bus to get home. So otherwise I'd be waiting another hour for either the S3, the S6 to come in. Or the S6, I guess it's been 45 minutes, but either way, I'm not, you know, for us trying to crack down on transfers, that was a pretty big thing for me. On 8-4, the N1, this is the 3 o'clock route, apparently drove past an entire group of people, one of them being my roommate. Apparently they were on a scavenger hunt type of thing, but he literally drove right by them, you know, not running late, according to them. But, yeah, they yelled at it and just drove right by.
Do you know the time or
It was the 3 o'clock route for M1. It would have left the station at 3.
on what day?
8-4. But it was a large crowd of people.
Here's the thing. Those need to be called in immediately. I mean, someone needs, within a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Or email it.
Video.
Yeah.
Well, they grabbed another route, and I happened to be on there. They know I'm on the transit committee, so.
We need to address that with the driver. I mean, if it truly happened, then that's something that should be addressed with the driver. Why did you pass him up? What happened here? And we can see that from the video. So whenever those kind of events occur, we want to address it. We do. We don't want someone out there being passed up. I mean, here's the reality. If that bus was full, you just stop and tell them the bus is full. I'm sorry. They're trying to get somebody else out, whatever it is. But I can imagine the driver thinking that it is appropriate to blow off a load of passengers at a stop. None of us thinks that's right, and we should address that. And if I have the opportunity, then almost guaranteed that one wouldn't have video that was working that day, right? But it may very well, and we should be able to try to address that. We want to.
Well, at least we're bringing it up now. It just, like I said, she saw it. Like, I got on the 4 o'clock bus to head home, literally, and she was on it, sees me, her whole group was on there, and then they all addressed me because she knew that I was on the transit committee. So I mentioned I'd bring it up in the next meeting.
It doesn't have to be that day, Dana. within a couple of days.
Right.
Get that into us.
Because we don't keep video forever,
No,
so
it'll start writing over.
there's no way for us to look into it if we don't hear about it
Okay.
relatively quickly.
All right, that's fine. I'll make a note of that then too. So on 8-7, let's see, make sure I'm reading this right. Okay, so I'm on the W1 heading 4, getting to the S1, and we get there. We asked them to hold at 4:59. We're at the intersection where the hot spot is, and we start pulling up there, and we hear 2 minutes later. We hear, oh, we can't hold them any longer. So she ends up having to drop me off right at that stop so I could run down to the next stop for them to catch me. And then when I get on that S1 bus, he looks at me and he's like, are you the transfer that's supposed to be W1? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, well, I thought you had changed your mind. I was still waiting for you when they pulled in. But so I'm just wondering if the driver hadn't been communicated with, they told him to leave, what's up? But if they're saying they can't hold it any longer, that's fine. But I was only lucky that I just happened to be able to run to that next stop. So and for him to ask me that later, I'm like, okay, you clearly had no idea what was going on. I mean, he said he literally was waiting for me. So I don't know. And then finally, I don't know if you saw the big Facebook post that was going around about the desk being closed, lights off, no notice, nothing, and people not being able to buy bus passes. One of this, again, being my roommate who has no car currently, had no way to get on the bus. So I don't know. I feel like if that's the kind of news that's going around, it's not going to look good on us. But there was from the picture they have of it, no notice, nothing. I mean, it was almost 9 o'clock.
It was only closed for about 10 minutes because the employee that was working there had an emergency.
So I heard, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. I mean, again, we could have had something so people knew if they would come back in 10 minutes. But I saw a number of people comment on that saying they had the exact same problem anyway. And then it happened again a couple of days later.
I'm not aware of that happening.
I can pull that up and I can mention it later, but yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just since we have no way of immediately getting out that kind of information, I don't think it's, I'm just saying.
There's no reason that person can't put a note in the window that says
Yeah.
10 minutes in the time. There's no reason.
Yeah.
You can't do that, and we'll address that. It should be done.
It was
Yeah.
not 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure how long it was. I just saw that the number of people had the exact same problem. Anyway, that's all for me on that one.
Okay. Last Tuesday, August 13th, I had experience with neither the app nor the text feature working, showing any routes available as of 9:20 p.m. I waited at the corner of Hilliard for the westbound routes until 9:40. I walked to the transit center along the route the bus would follow. No route showed available when I got to the transit center. Several had a sign that said, the little square that says last, when I knew they weren't the last buses for those routes. But since there was no text alert, and evidently no buses coming and no communication about it, I walked 2.5 miles home. I'm sure I wasn't alone, but with people who were confused. But if the text function wasn't working and the app wasn't working, and it says there's no more coming for the rest of the night, and the Google map says there's no more coming for the rest of the night, that I can do tomorrow, that was the communication I had available to me.
Did
Not
you
sure what
report it?
This is the report that I have. I can send you the email of this. It happened
that's
last
from
Tuesday.
a different person?
No, this is me.
Okay.
So I
Well,
can send you the email of this.
Okay.
I was just typing it up
Yeah.
for today.
I guess
can send it to you.
my point is that if no one tells us that something's wrong, we don't know. Because I'm not, not all of us are riding the bus at 9 p.m.
Right,
so-
right. But these are systemic issues.
Right.
So when I went through the customer complaints, which that'll come up later, I'm looking for a cause for celebration. I'm looking for us to have some wins. I'm writing that in the minutes. I'm looking for us to have a meeting where we don't have constant communication issues. Because really a lot of these are communication issues. Communication with the drivers, communications with the riders, communications with the staff. We can do better as a transit committee, getting information to the staff in a more timely manner. We got to do something about communications. I think communication should be a key issue of our upcoming retreat. At the last multimodal meeting, I talked about a story of a skipped stop. I was on the bus, and the details aren't as important because it's happening. I know you say that it shouldn't happen, or you don't understand why it is happening, but it's our complaints from the riders are just a small percentage because they're the people that take the time. the best way I know how to word this is we need to transfer to our next bus, not transfer incredible negative energy between each other, but that's what's happening. And until we get the transit master plan in place, I think we need to lighten up on the drivers, because this is a whole new bag of just epic nonsense between when we're leaving people on the side of the road. That's like, I've been on the transit committee for 3.5 years, and this is new. This level of people getting past. So whatever happened is not working.
That's the person doing it. Come on. We need to know about it so we can deal with it. There's no reason to be passing people up at stops. If it's, I didn't see them, then you need to stop there at this time every day, so you're sure to pick up the people. Whatever that communication, as you said, we have to communicate with them. We have to go feedback to them to
So
say.
yeah,
"Hey,
but it's not
video,
one. It's
will the video see you at that shelter as we go by? How come you didn't see it? See, those visuals that you can show the driver are very strong. It may
in
never
this
happen
instance,
again because of that.
I know that you weren't at the multimodal. In this instance, she says she couldn't stop because if she pressed the brakes too hard, she would get in trouble from her boss. So there's all
that's a
kinds of
complete
reasons.
misnomer.
There's trees in the
See,
way.
and I don't know who that was.
Right.
And if we could have a talk with that person to talk about what the program really does, then we can get beyond that. But if we don't have that, I can't fix that. Again, that communication has got to happen.
Well, I can work better on communication, but at the same time, I'm not wanting to get my neighbor who's a driver in trouble because they're trying to hustle to get on-time performance up because
They're
worried
not
they'll
going
get
to
in trouble.
get, there's not, this is
breaking.
not for disciplinary reasons, it's for safety.
Yeah,
And
it's not.
we can't simultaneously address drivers driving 50 miles an hour down Emma Road. We get complaints on both sides. We want safety. We don't want drivers driving fast. We don't want them slamming on the brakes. I mean, we had public comment today saying that we had a whole bus full of people shift seats because someone slammed on their brakes. So we can't address that and then simultaneously get, yelled at for, I mean, we have to improve safety. Yes, we have to improve on-time performance. And
Right, we're also
we have
an
to
hour
have
and 20
bus.
minutes, almost an hour into this meeting, and we haven't even gotten out of the comments, but I'm just saying that,
Right.
like, we are gonna have to do something, and I'm hoping that the transit master plan implementation is gonna address some of the on-time performance issues. Because we gotta
Yeah.
get some of this pressure off.
I agree.
In general.
We're trying our
Um,
best to get all of the stuff we're doing our very best to do and get done. And, I don't really love being here an hour and 20 minutes in and hearing a bunch of complaints that could have been submitted to us when they happened, too, that we could have worked to address between now and then. I don't want this meeting to continually devolve into complaints. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't hear them, but we need to hear them in a timely manner, and we need to be able to address them. And we also have to have consistency in the requests, which from my perspective, we don't get, so.
And last but not least, last time I mentioned the airport S3 route, and I just wanted to follow up and ask if there are now announcements on that route. That's 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 it was an us.
Those should all be functioning. I don't know for sure, but we'll check.
Thank you.
They should all be.
Okay. Hey, first of all, I hung out a little bit at the maintenance center and did a little project with Barry and got the bus drivers in the maintenance facility some stuff. I think I said I was going to do that 2 months ago, and Barry got me a list and we got it done. We still have chairs coming. But we updated and upgraded and put a bunch of stuff in lockers and a bunch of stuff in the maintenance facility. So I thought that was really positive.
They were very positive.
Because they needed
You
it.
tell me it's okay to let them know that it came from you.
I don't need that, but if you want to do that, that's fine. I've been benchmarking real quickly, and I'll table this for later, but I've been looking at other cities in terms of how they run their downtown shuttles. I'm big on a downtown shuttle. I'm big on the TDA funding it, as they do in Greenville. So I've been looking at similar models of systems, of downtown microsystems and macro systems, and kind of benchmarking against them. So I've been talking directly to them. I'll come up with a big spreadsheet, but I'm just kind of investigating that, for Asheville in the future, and to maybe, I think it's a way to kind of make the bus system something, re-educate people about the bus system, and it's something for everybody, for citizens, for tourists. I think it's a way to rebrand what I see is a very negative brand, obviously, right now. So I think there is some kind of rebranding around transit that needs to happen, but that happens in a lot of cities, as we all know, about what transit is and who it serves. It's a very negative perception of that. So I think getting tourists on the bus and kind of branding it for everyone is super important. Leads me back to, yes, so I've heard a bunch of complaints. There's a bunch of complaints out there. I live right by the bus station, by the way, 3 blocks. There's a strange zeitgeist going down in downtown Asheville. And it's a lot more animosity. There's a lot more people carrying knives. They're moving people out of certain areas. I think that's why they're ending up at the bus station, by the way, because they're clearing other areas, the 3 blocks up from the bus station. There's been a lot going down downtown that I think is affecting. There's a lot of really angry people on both sides. I see it as an opportunity. There's 2 different things, I think, that I've seen. One is de-escalation. Let's de-escalate this in any way we can. Whether it be from the driver's side or the passengers, too much escalation going on and it's quick. So we can do education around de-escalation, conflict resolution, quick de-escalation of situations. I feel like things are blowing up that could be mediated. Secondarily, I think it's a really important time for education. I do feel like, and I've put this even on Facebook some too, is that people don't know about the complaint line. I'm not sure if people really know that there is a place they can reach out and complain. So I think there's a massive gap in education that needs to be done to let people know this is how you make a complaint, this is how complaints are handled, this is who sees the complaint, this is our reaction time to complaints. Same thing with like policies and procedures. This is the policy and procedure for this and for that. Yes, we need to have weapons, we need to talk about strollers, but that's very clearly articulated to everyone what those are. And to me, that's all communication and education. So I think that's just vitally important. Not only that, but I'm not sure if people know. And some buses, when you get on, it says there's a camera on the bus, by the way, in other cities. Like they let you know that there's a camera on the bus and there's this on the bus and that on the bus. Similar to Kim said about those screens. There's a lot more notifications about what the bus has on it. So I'm not sure if the general public knows that there's cameras on the bus, that you are taking video, that you're GPS tracking, that you guys know where the buses is. You can track that. I think it's important to have education about the tools that you're using to better the system, the tools that are out there to better the system, and just educate about utilizing all those tools on both sides of the equation.
All right, so anyone have anything else to add before we go and move on? Because we really need to kick it into gear. It's almost 4:30 now, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about.
New business?
New business. Let's go ahead.
In your packet is the staff report that's going to council for their August 27th meeting, which is to approve the, essentially approve purchase orders that we will be executing, I guess is the right word, for purchases of 7 new buses. And the buses that we have chosen we've chosen to purchase 4 diesel Grand West vicinity buses. We recently were able to do a test run, if you will, with these buses. They're heavily used in British Columbia and other locations through the U.S., but it was essentially a bus that was designed for Vancouver's streets and downtown areas. It's a bus that we feel provides a lot of versatility given our roadway constraints. And then the other 3 buses that we're going to purchase are Gillig hybrid buses. We already have 7 of those, but the last ones that we bought, I think, were from 2010 or 2012. So we would be adding to our hybrid fleet. And we plan to purchase another round of buses in about next summer, and then the year after that as well. And this is all using grant funds that we received from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We got about $5 million, a little more than $5 million, and so we expect to be able to purchase in excess of 10 to 12 buses, I think, with that money over the next 3 years. So just wanted to let you guys know that that is our plan, and we would be getting the buses in enough time to be able to implement the January service, as well as what we would hope would be the next service increase.
Does anyone have questions about that?
I have a lot of questions about that.
You go first.
Okay. The 3 Gilliam buses, the cost per bus is what, about $750 a pop or so?
About 700.
And are they, Gilliam makes 29, 35s, and 40s, so what sizes are there for that bus? It said 30, but I thought they made 29, 35s, and 40s in the Gilliam hybrids.
Well, the 30-foot is the 29.
The 29, okay, that's what I just want to clarify. And I guess, I just looked at pricing, and so I know that the buses can run, that's high, and that in a hybrid bus, because when I was benchmarking, I was talking to Raleigh, and I know that going from like a 29 to like a 35 and a 40, it's not exponentially, it doesn't go like that. Like, it's almost cheaper to purchase a bigger bus because the cost doesn't rise as much. So I'm wondering why the cost is so high. I think I looked on the website, and the Gilling, 35-footer was like $580 or something, so I'm guessing it's a low floor. That seems like, I know hybrids are expensive, but that seems expensive. So I just wanted to ask about the cost for those 29-footers, and then relative to the cost for 35 versus 40.
Well, we can't buy a 40-foot bus.
Yeah.
And we have 35-foot buses, Proterras, and that has limited our ability to deploy them. So
Okay.
I do not believe that we will be buying anything bigger than a 30-ish foot bus from here on out, unless all of our roads change and get bigger and wider. So I think that's kind of one answer.
Got it.
We're limited by size, and then as far as the cost, we're utilizing a contract that from Rocky Mount that they did an RFP several years ago, that the city is a part of, a joint purchasing contract with them for Gillig buses. So that was an RFP process that they did, and I'm sure that they had multiple responses to that RFP, so that procurement process would have looked at other models and other versions of hybrids. And then, the base model cost is one thing, and then when you add all of the things, well, there's, we want to always purchase low floor buses because they're easily for all kinds of reasons for everyone. But on top of that, there's all the fare boxes, the APCs, the radios, all of the equipment.
So that's
cameras.
total. So that's like your
the
done
total.
deal. Total
Exactly.
package.
Yeah. So for some reason in the past, when we've purchased buses, we haven't been consistent about making sure that they come, I'll just say, fully loaded with the stuff that we need, and then we've had to subsequently go and purchase the radios or the fare boxes. We had to do that with the Proterras because for some reason when they were ordered, they didn't include all of the equipment. And so purchases that we make from now on will include all of the stuff. So the prices that you see in the staff report include everything.
Okay, that's good. That's
yeah.
good clarification.
Yeah.
Then the Oxford buses, Are they, what year are they? The 4 buses? How much are they? I think they were 1.5 something for 4. What year are they?
They're
Are they clean diesel?
2018. They're
Okay, so
2018.
And what size are they?
They're also 30s,
So we're at
29,
30s.
30. Yeah.
They're brand new right off the line.
Brand new rock line. Just wanted to clarify.
And-
Yeah.
And we are going to go through a phase in where those won't even come off the production line until May,
Okay, so those are,
but they're going to give us 4 buses to start in January. So we're working out the retrofit equipment that we'll be able to, that we'll need.
and then the new buses will roll out on the
They'll roll
line.
in and go. Yeah.
And the 7 buses replace the 7 buses we have that were pre-2012, the 2004. I looked at the list, so I know there's 7 buses that were older than 2012, so I'm guessing those are going to pop out, those old buses.
Yes.
7, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to say thank you for negotiating to make sure that we have the resources that we need to get this going in January. I see we're purchasing 30-foot hybrids. What was the process of due diligence, and has a representative of the ATU 28 been consulted to make sure that they're, or any driver to make sure that they're going to work?
I don't know that we discussed it with the ATU. We run them now.
Okay. What is the side-by-side comparison between these Gillig and our current buses regarding battery life, range, power on hills, heating and air, et cetera? Because I understand now that they're not electric, they're hybrid.
I believe they're the same as what we currently run as hybrid electric Gillig now.
Okay, thank you.
I think those are the 12s, aren't they? I think they're the 12s.
They're just a newer model of the Gilligs we're currently using.
Yes.
Thank you. So, as I've said in this meeting multiple times, if fuel spikes again, we're going to have a lot of parked buses. So why are we purchasing a majority of diesel-based buses when it doesn't seem to be in line with the city's renewable energy goals?
I will refer back to my previous comments. And I would also like to say that the city is responsible for buying the buses. That is per the contract. We buy buses, we provide them to RATP Dev to run. So that has nothing to do with the ATU.
Got it. Okay.
And I guess, I think what are the emission savings on a hybrid? I know that they advertise at 70%. In real life, I think they're more like 40% less impactful than diesel, I believe. Do we know what that looks like on the new hybrids, what they're running? And that's not what they purport to run, but what we call in real life testing?
I don't
It's
know.
30, 40? Okay.
I think that is available.
Okay, and have we, I guess I'll just put this on the table because I'm benchmarking, have we ever, and I know this creates a whole new bug in the system, but have we looked at a side-by-side comparison with compressed natural gas, which is also less emissions and a little bit cheaper than the hybrids, I believe? So I'm just wondering if that's ever been put on the table to kind of look at, and I know that takes a whole new filling system, but I just wanted to put out there if we ever considered using CNG. Many cities have been using that also.
Right, so the members of the Renewables Coalition are bringing to the table that the Cadmus report, which we paid a consultant in collaboration with the county to get us to our 100% renewable energy goals. Members of that group are advocating for the city's fleet to be part of that carbon reduction. So it's going to come up, and I figure it's going to come up here because it's in regard to our fleet. So thank you for answering those questions.
Do we have any other questions on this particular topic? Nope. Okay. Moving on to the second half of this, right? Proposed amendment?
Okay, sorry. So also in your packet, I have provided, well, maybe it's not in your packet, I'm sorry. We are taking to council on the 27th also the proposed Amendment 1 to the contract that the city has with RATP Dev for transit operations and maintenance. And the Amendment 1 really is focused on on 3 things. One is just minor corrections and clarifications. The big part, though, is incorporating the new budget that City Council approved recently to do the increased service in January. So it's adding more money, adding more service hours, also adding more staffing. So all of the things that we outlined for you with when we were talking about the budget process earlier this year. And so anything related to like service hours or the staffing charts or new staff and new requirements are part of this amendment. I prepared a very lengthy document, which is linked in your agenda, that is a strikeout, underline of every change in the 150 plus page existing contract. So I don't really want to go through every single thing, but this table has every change that was made. And then the third part that we tried to incorporate was new performance measures or changing performance measures to make them, I guess I'll call stronger. And so those are kind of the big things. So incorporating the new budget and staffing and new service hours, incorporating changes to performance measures, and then minor clarifications. So just a reminder, we are now, as of July 1st, in the third year of a 4-year contract. And there are 2 optional 2-year extensions after year 4. So year 4 would begin next July. The service increase that we're working towards for January, we need to incorporate that into the contract now so that the contractor can begin hiring the new drivers that are going to be necessary for the service increase, the customer service folks that were added to the staffing. I think we had another dispatcher that you were planning to hire. 2 more utility workers. So all of that needs to be in the contract, and we need to have a signed contract soon so that they can start their recruitment process, their hiring, and get folks trained and ready to go in January when service starts. So we did our best to capture everything in this document that would serve as Amendment 1 to the contract. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You said after January 1st is when you're going to hire new utility workers?
Well, the hiring would take place prior to January, and then they will be, I guess, put to work in January.
The contract revenue rate goes into effect in January. So that's when reimbursement for those individuals begins.
Okay, because I have been talking to the utility workers that we have, and they were telling me about how short-staffed they were at this time.
Mm-hmm. Right. So Barry will be hiring them before January 1st, but there will be a training period that they'll have to go through, and then they'll be in place working their out of training by January.
Okay. Thank you.
My only question was, did the standard for the years of the contract continue? So we're still in the third year. There wasn't an extension of the contract period.
No.
Thank you. No.
I just want to commend you for doing this because it was a lot of work, and I really appreciated being able to see the strike-throughs, the addition of the performance measures, which I thought was wonderful, the shorter timelines on things, and the clarity of the accountability portion was greatly improved. So thank you for that.
Agreed.
All right. Any other questions on that?
She drives a hard work.
Yes.
And do we have any other questions on the proposed amendment? No?
No.
Are we looking for any sort of endorsement or anything like that? because this is going to council. It's not yet been passed, right?
Correct. Yes, if you are willing to endorse it, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'd like to review a little more in time before we make a decision on that, but
Okay. And this goes to council?
On the 27th, so
That's
next Tuesday.
next week.
So we need to choose a date for the transit committee fall retreat?
Yeah, we got a list of dates that we got in for choosing the transit committee retreat. I'm gonna pull that up real quick.
So
I believe it was the 30th of October, the 1st of November.
So October 18th, October 25th, October 30th, and November 1st are the days that the facilitator who we used last year is available, and it sounds like a lot of folks that were here last year thought she did a good job. I thought she did a good job.
So this will be like a full day retreat, which is a really good time for us to all get on the same page on what we're working for throughout the year. But it's a long, full day for anyone who's not done a transit committee retreat yet. But it will help us get organized. So understanding that that's a big ask for my fellow volunteers, it certainly is a big ask for me. My suggestion was that we keep it the same week as the transit committee meeting for October, but instead of us meeting on Tuesday, have the full day on the 18th, which is that Friday. Because Tuesday not being an option. But that we would cancel the meeting on October 15th and instead have our retreat on the 18th. That way it's the same week, if that's doable for everyone. Does it seem like the October 18th is doable for the majority of the folks here? Are there people
Work
who
for
would
me.
be left out?
I'm good.
We would provide lunch. And I think, I'm trying to remember, is it like 10 to 4 last year,
I
or
think we did 9 to 3.
9 to 3? Okay. But we can choose a time later, but getting a date on the books would be very helpful for us.
So I'm going to make a motion that we set a date for Friday, October 18th for the Transit Committee's fall retreat, knowing that we still don't have Thomas, Sabra, and Jeff here, and that we cancel the regularly scheduled October 15th meeting. In the past, if something really big came up that we needed to address, we would have a short version of the Transit Committee meeting in that one. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
That's it.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and just vote on that then, unless anybody has anything to add before we do. Okay. All right, well, so all all in favor to put our retreat at Friday, October 18th?
No.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
That includes canceling the 15th meetings. We just we need to notice that and update the city's website to reflect that.
Okay.
Cool. All right, that works. So if we're finished off with new business, we can go ahead and move on to updates from other groups, including multimodal.
Sure, I'll be quick. The Multimodal Transportation Commission has recommended appointment of Liz to the transit seat on multimodal. That's going to go to boards and commissions next Tuesday before it goes to council the same night. We reviewed the transit master plan timeline. Staff confirmed that routes are being tested during peak times. Concern was expressed about missed routes, which is not about the transit master plan, but staff confirmed that the cutaways were returned and that they are running spare buses. Heard confirmation the city is getting liquidated damages, but not during transit center updates, which was part of this contract review that we just looked at. And regarding maps and signage, Bruce said that schematic maps work well with Metro, but geographic maps better for transit because you're above ground. So I just wanted to share that with the group, and we're looking at maps and signage for today. The end.
Okay, so we'll just go ahead and move on then. Departmental updates.
In your packet is the monthly transit update memo, and there were a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. that are included in this. One is the art station renovation. So you might have noticed that we've got the contractor. The project's going to be starting soon. The parking lot that's adjacent to the transit center on the south side is going to be, a portion of that is going to be used for their staging area, so for their storage of construction materials and equipment. And that's been barriered off so that, and the fence, okay, great. And the fences are starting to go up. And then the next thing you'll see in the next couple days, potentially tomorrow, would be the delivery of the temporary trailer, which is going to be housing the public waiting area, the ticketing, the dispatch, and what else? There will be a small driver's room, and there will be restrooms. Everything's going to be accessible, and the trailer is going to be in use while they're renovating the inside of the station. So you'll see that trailer delivery. And I just want to just say one more time, we're going to try our best to keep you guys updated with like exactly what's happening as we can, because there will be different impacts during the project. It's going to be kind of an ever-shifting thing. And we're going to post updates on the city's web page. That we have a project page for this, but we're also going to try to be putting out alerts and iRide emails and such. So make sure that you are signed up for iRide, and also check out the web page. Any questions on the renovation, Harvey?
In the staging area, where you gonna be putting this big old trailer? Where is it gonna be? At the top or the bottom? Where?
It's going to be on the Cox Avenue side. So the bottom, I guess. It'll be closer to Cox Avenue. From the current.
From the current depot?
Yeah.
At the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Will
and
that stop traffic from coming into there? Because I'm not
that driveway that currently can be accessed for that public parking lot is going to be closed.
Down at the bottom's gonna be closed and the top will be open.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then one thing I want to mention is we had received a lot of comments when we were doing the underground utility portion of the renovation, that when we had loading and unloading on Ashland, it just wasn't a very great place for folks to wait, no benches or anything. So what we're going to do when the portion of the project comes where the platform's going to be worked on and we have to close portions of the platform and have folks loading and unloading on Ashland again, we're going to have shelters installed that will provide bench space and cover during that portion of the project. And we'll have signage so people know, better signage so people know where the bus is, which bus is which.
Is that gonna be like out in the open, or, because this is gonna be like in the wintertime, it's gonna be cold out there.
So it's going to be on the sidewalk on Ashland, and we'll install shelters so that you'll have a little bit more cover from the elements during that time. So it should be fall, late fall, early winter, I think, when that is occurring.
If we could just be somewhat mindful about accessibility, because that sidewalk isn't like super big, and with the shelters, and if people need to get around and get through. I know during the former renovation, it was a lot of people were hopping off the sidewalk and walking on the street, and it was a bit of a cause for alarm. So if we could just be mindful of how much space is available for pedestrians.
Right.
Yeah. And also, I guess, when's the end date for the proposed end date when the renovations will be completed?
I can't give you an exact date. the contract is 151 days,
Okay.
but there was an added-on piece that was going to take more time for the reconstruction of the sidewalks, or the platform where the sidewalks meet the platform on both sides, and I cannot recall how long that was. But I'm going to say in the 175-day range is the total contract that they have to finish.
Okay.
And so their notice to proceed probably went out last week, well, a couple weeks ago probably. So that's when the time starts clicking. But I can get an update on that too.
Yeah, I guess I just want to reiterate, like, sometime toward the end of that process, can we walk through differently abled people before it's a done deal to make sure it's actually accessible on multiple levels? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Like, we're redoing it. So, yeah.
I mean, with they're starting construction.
Yeah,
next
I'm just
week.
talking about before it's completed with like signage, and if I know there's ADA requirements, but then there's, different types of differently able people accessibility that you can actually have go through it before it's, yeah.
Like
in
for
end,
the
so you can-
signage part?
Yeah, for all those last parts, so we just make sure that while we have the contractor there, that those things are done, so we don't have to call back or it just wasn't done and it is not accessible for differently abled people.
Okay.
I hate to cut you off, Harvey, but we do need to keep moving on a little bit. If you want to keep it short, we might be able to
One question.
move it.
Doing all this renovation, everybody running around doing all this, what kind of time frame are we talking about that they're actually going to work from and to?
Do you mean during the day or?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. What's the time frame that people are actually going to work from 9 to 5 or doing at night? Or are they going to be working on a 24 hours?
It's not 24 hours. It's generally during the day, but I don't know what time. I don't know the exact times. I would imagine it's probably 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. maybe.
12-hour schedule.
I don't know for sure. I'm not the construction manager, but I know that they're not planning to do night work. At least they haven't proposed to do night work. So
Yeah,
I think
because after a while, in a little while, we'll have less daylight.
Right. Yeah, and it might change during the months that they're working on it. And then the other thing that I wanted to, what was it that I wanted to tell you? Oh, I just wanted to mention that one of the other things that staff is working on right now, which is taking a significant amount of time, that is not a very exciting or fascinating thing, is that we have it's called the triennial review, and this is a federally required 3-year audit, essentially is what it is, where FTA, Federal Transit Administration, comes in. We've actually started working on it in December. We started working on it back in December and have been working on it since. But their site visit is going to be occurring September 25th and 26th. And really what the triennial review is it's looking at 21 different areas of compliance. Everything from how do we spend our federal funds to are we complying with ADA and Title VI requirements, and safety, and I mean pretty much everything you can think of related to transit. They come in and they look at, we have to submit tons of documentation to them, and then they'll come in and choose pieces that they want to dive into in general. So it's a 2-day long, all-day thing for us on site. They also, make visits to the transit station and the garage facility. And then since the city is we're called the designated recipient for all of the transit funds for the region. So not only are we responsible for ourselves, but we're responsible for 5 subrecipients, including Henderson County, Buncombe County, Haywood, Madison, in Hendersonville, and we take the federal funds for transit, we pass it through to those entities, and then we're responsible for making sure that they're following all of the rules too. So it's a multi-agency endeavor that we have to go through every 3 years, and then they have findings of things that we are, if we're not in compliance, they have findings, and then we have to change those things. So all of that is to say that that's another thing that we're working on right now, and I just wanted you guys to know.
Since we're going to be making so many changes, will there be some sort of update that the triennial review will require a follow-up when we actually get ADA compliant?
No, because it's not really about like the operation itself. Like they don't care how many routes we run and what our hours are. It's more about when they give us federal dollars, did we spend them correctly? Did we follow all the rules? Do we have, an up-to-date drug and alcohol policy? Like all those kinds of things. It's not really about how we run, like what our system looks like at all, if that makes sense. And that was the only two kind of newish things that I wanted to bring up from the memo.
Do we have any further questions then? Any comments? Ideas? Okay. I guess we'll move on to operations updates then.
Anything from you guys?
No, not really. We're all in the process of trying to be sure we're putting the service out there in as timely a fashion as we can. We are following up with the city on issues with some of the systems to be sure that we can start tweaking systems and making sure they're ready to go for January, which will affect OTP, districts, it'll affect all those things. So it's critical that we keep pushing to get all that stuff accurate. Other than that, I think we can pretty well put all of our reports out there, so you should have what you need there.
All right. Anybody have anything to comment on? Questions?
No.
Nope. All right. It looks like we can move over to unfinished business and get that worked out.
Okay, so in your packet, there's a memo from Marcella and Kayla about route name changes for January 2020 and some considerations for that. So as you know, our system, like the routes are basically named kind of on a direction of travel basis and then a number. And we also, with the Transit Master Plan, have a couple of crosstown routes that we're going to be implementing. And that those crosstown routes combine to existing routes essentially, but we probably don't want to call them the W3E2 or the W4E1. We probably, I'm guessing, would just want to call them Crosstown 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. But we don't want to presume that. We want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about that. Or, I mean, this is an opportunity, I guess, if we wanted to change the way we number or label routes, this would be the time to do it. There will be future opportunities as well. But we need to think about other things like the Transit Master Plan had recommended that we change the N route, which goes to Grove Park and goes to Montford. It had recommended that we change the name to Grove Park and Montford, but for signage purposes, it doesn't make sense from a staff perspective to have a couple of routes with really long names and then everything else just be a short number. So in this table, in this memo, we have some recommendations about route numbers or names. So like with regard to the N route, we're thinking call it the N, call one direction to Montford its own route, N4, and then the part that goes to Grove Park, call it N5. It seems to be a confusing thing to have it just named one route name.
Yeah.
Another example that Marcella proposed was for the crosstown routes, just call them X1 and X2. And then for the new route that's going to be implemented in January, that will go kind of directly to Piscaview Apartments. We would just name that the W3. Wait, W3. Don't we already have a W3?
We do have a
Oh, yeah,
W3.
but it's a crosstown. Yeah, so that's what we've recommended, but we're open to any suggestions.
Okay, one question and one suggestion, at least from what we've got looking over here. I'm looking at the back of this, and I really don't understand the 1X. I think that's way more
that would make
complicated.
sense.
But for X, why not C instead for
Yeah,
crosstown?
That's what we did last time, because I was thinking if you have WXE, it explains that you're at least going to be going west and east. So that to me made sense, but X seems to me like something that's canceled or cut out.
Yeah, it's not a cross.
Okay, so you think, I think I'm hearing we shouldn't do W2 we shouldn't do X2 and X4 and X1. We should just have Cs.
Yeah,
But I still thought we were
C1,
going
2,
to
4.
be calling it the PVA route, the DMV route, the
Yeah.
Walmart, like
I think they need
the
names.
destination. Are we not
Yeah.
doing destination names now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll still have those in your destination signs. It's just when you start putting signage on your bus stops and those kind of things, what's the simple terminology of that route? It'll be the W3.
Okay.
You know,
In
but-
that
but
case,
your
I would
signs
definitely say
will
not
have
an X.
Not an X. That doesn't make sense.
Because it doesn't say what direction you're going. Cross is one thing, unless it's
Cross.
WXE or NXS.
You can even do EW or WE because that says you're going east and west or west and east.
Yeah,
So
actually,
that's the
I
most.
like that idea too.
Yeah, you don't even need another category. You just need to say EW. EW, east west.
Yeah, I was trying to bring that up earlier. I particularly don't like the
No.
numbering system
That
for
was-
the.
But I'm intrigued
that.
about how that, like, where was the thought process in thinking that this was
That's not.
the best? Because maybe I'm missing something.
No, that was.
The second box on the
like
back.
the 2XX, 5X.
These are all just options for consideration, just like brainstorms that
Oh, I see.
Marcella and Karen had. So,
The WXE, to me, if I saw that, it would help to separate the W and E, and it would explain to me that I can be on a continuous ride.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones that say just a number and a W or a number and an E, that's not a continuous ride. Whereas this one, I can stay put and just go the whole way. That's how I read it personally, but that's the limitation.
Or you can dash it or something too. Dash E, like some kind of symbol.
so okay, so
So when I read W5/S2 or WXS, that means I can get from west to south or south to west, stay on the same bus, which I've been riding the bus for so long, even I accidentally get off the bus and then it ends up being the one that it's staying on. I feel so silly getting off the back and then going back on the front. So that to me could be a good communications tool. We might want to try running that through like, I don't know, another lens. But that would
okay,
cover
so
it.
I think I'm hearing either C124, C1, C2, C4, or WXS, 1WXE, or 2WXE. And the X's could be just hyphens instead of X's if you think that's more
Yeah, I think it's
He didn't
confusing.
know if it was where it was gonna land at what time. But this is
And
different.
that got morphed into the Grove Park route,
Yeah.
if I remember right.
I think C's could be confusing with regards to not including the cardinal directions.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I did the X with the 2 cardinal directions, just so people who don't typically use the buses can get around still.
Yeah.
I like that
I
solution.
mean, I like, without the X, I think it'd be great, WS, WE.
WE, that's what I think.
You could do WE1, WE2.
Yeah, just the direction you're going.
WE1 and WE2 and
No, you don't.
WS.
I mean,
That's what's, the
for
only
me,
thing that
but-
helps with the X is understanding that you can stay on that route and not have to transfer. If there was a way, if we have an opportunity to communicate that clearly to our community, that could be a good tool.
Yeah.
But maybe it's easier to read 2 letters close together.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean,
Instead of
realistically.
3 of them, one of them being smaller than the other 2. I just don't like the X. I really
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. By putting the X in there, isn't that gonna confuse a lot
I
of
think it's
people?
confusing.
Well, and you know, with our maps, we'll have more room for extra explanation. Like on our map, we might be able to say WS crosstown route, or these routes are crosstowns or
WS.
something. But,
Yeah, right.
for signage, like if you're at the transit station, right now we've got these paddles, if you will, these little signs with the number and the letter that are kind of small. I think very likely we'll have a similar look but bigger. But having just a number or a letter and a number is something that is just easier to deal with.
I'm personally fine with letter and a number. That's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
I mean,
Letter number.
other places, they'll just number everything like the 100, the 200, the
Right,
300, the
right.
400.
But we have a lot of
But-
people in town that are either new
Yes.
and or visiting, and we
Yes.
need to have a system that works best for the people who live here,
Yes.
but also get other people off the road. So if we have an opportunity on every bus to say which direction you're heading, I think we should take it.
Yes.
So they don't have to have a map. They can
No.
just get on the bus.
Yeah, I think whatever is, what I see is when, I don't really see it, but whenever those things go across the top of the bus, and I'm in other cities too, it's always like the north Beaver Dam or the east Tunnel Road. So I think you have to have something like whether like the road, the main route it goes down, or the import, or the S whatever airport. I think you need, and you can say that with one word. I think those two things together, if you're not familiar, but at least I know, oh, this is the one that takes me down Tunnel Road. This is the one that takes me to the airport. This is the one going up Moffett to the Klondike versus this is the one going to the Grove Park.
The cities,
Versus this is the one, you know what I mean? So it's just like one word.
the cities where I've seen them use numbers specifically is when they're not using a hub and spoke like we are.
Yeah.
So it's like when I've been to Baltimore or Raleigh, Durham area,
Yeah.
it's because the 183 is going in a
It just
circle.
goes in a loop.
Okay, so what about the N route? Are we good with N4 and N5?
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up. That I really appreciated that because
Me
it's
too.
confusing even for me to figure out which one I'm getting on.
Yeah, we're right in this year, and I don't know what.
So everybody else? Okay, and then I guess the only other one would be W3 would be the one that goes to PVA directly.
So
Well, it would become it's a new route, but it could become the W3 because the W3
No, there's
will
already
no
a
longer
W3.
exist.
There's,
But
oh,
it's going to be
Yeah, we're getting
crosstown.
rid, yeah.
that would be really confusing for anybody who's already going to be dealing with massive amounts of changes. The reason that I think
It could be the W6, but then eventually, a year from now, when nobody remembers the ones that are now crosstowns, we'll have gaps in the numbers, which is not a big deal. Like, that's also a common thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I was actually going to ask about the gap in the X's here, the 1, 2, and 4. Was there a 3 that? Can't
I
remember
think
that.
there's a crosstown 3 in the transit master plan that's later. Is that right? Does that sound right?
Sounds all right.
Yeah, it's a north-south one that's not implemented yet.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I was wondering about that. The north-south.
So the W1 and the W2, which go back in there, are not going back in there anymore?
To WPV, to West PVA?
Yeah.
No, that's part of the master plan implementation, is that there will be a direct line, a direct route that will go from the station to Pisgah View Apartments and back to the station.
Okay.
Yeah. So the W1 and the W2 will no longer divert.
Yeah.
So the cut time, because those are poorly before.
I know. The people who live there, if they want to go on, they have to. How would they do that? Would they?
If they want to what? Go
Well-
west?
Yeah, west, I guess, yeah.
They would have to transfer on the Haywood Road corridor. So, for example, we were talking about this. We did have a meeting about signage and mapping and communications with the Equity and Inclusion Office, and communications is going to be a really important part of this transit master plan rollout. But we need to really clearly communicate that if you live in a certain neighborhood, and let's say that I want to get from, PVA to the DMV, what does a walkthrough look like? Where do you stop? Where do you transfer?
Yeah.
Because everyone who's used to just getting on the bus and headed to the end of the route
Yeah.
will have a change. Same thing for, other route changes where we're moving stops. I do want to just acknowledge that we only have about 15 minutes left, and we still have a couple more things. So do we need to have an action about this?
We do in the near future. We probably could. I'm trying to think, because the map maker, she's making the draft maps. We could potentially kick it down the road until the next meeting, but I think after that we would need for sure a definitive.
When is she going to have the first draft of the maps ready?
The first draft she's going to be showing us next week, but without the route names.
Right. I mean, I'm willing to make a motion. It would be a recommendation to use directional lettering, to not use dashes for code purposes, and to just run this through the Cape Department to make sure we're not missing anything.
Okay. So the West PVA route, the new route, and you guys think that we
W6.
might not want to name it W3 because it'll get confused with the old W3.
How would you?
That's way more than likely to
W6
happen. yes.
Pisgah View.
Well, I'm trying to think about no other bus route in the city is named for the neighborhood that's at the end of it. Not one. So something about that sticks with me as why this one? But I think it's because for me that I'm it's going to be such a big change for everybody that lives there. But naming it then a route that other people use to go to a different destination is why I'm definitely not the W3 because it's so big.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm inclined to say name it the W6.
Yeah, W6 is good.
But I don't know if I'm missing something.
No, it makes sense.
That's fine with us.
The easiest.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that.
People think that way. Yeah.
We can name it. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I mean, it's easy for us to change it on maps, but it's the signage. We're not going to be able to change the signage at the station every time. So this is it,
And then if there's another W3 in the extension of future years of the master plan and everyone's forgotten about the W3, then it's the time to use it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I can do this last one real quick. So as we've been, hopefully this comes up. Okay, let me see if I can wing it. So as we have been riding routes and looking at the timing of the routes, including the new routes and new configurations for the transit master plan, we've also been looking at the old routes because we're going to be updating schedules. But the transit master plan has a few things in it. One in particular that I need direction on. It recommends that I believe it's the S6, no longer go to Mayheck, and instead goes as a extension of service out into the county in an area that is not currently served by transit. This is what's recommended in the transit master plan. Current staff, I guess I should say, does not feel as that recommendation in the master plan. The reasons for that are, number one, in my opinion, is that Mayheck serves a very vulnerable portion of our community. And our transit system does as well. So I feel as though cutting service to Mayheck, although the ridership there may not be very strong, I don't feel as though it makes a whole lot of sense to cut access to a community that really needs that service from Mayheck. So that's one reason why I do not recommend it. Another reason, and also Mayheck really does not want us to cut service to them. But the other reason is that not going to Mayheck and instead going out into the county has not committed to providing any funds to support that. They are going to be providing funds for the extension up New Leicester Highway to the northern angles. They are going to be providing some funds for the city to do that extension, but they have not provided funds, at least in this next budget year, for an extension into the county on the S6. And so that's our recommendation. And I want to know from you guys if you feel that that is what we should pursue.
So just an update, when we reviewed the S6 before, we understood that Mayheck offers a shuttle and that ART was essentially duplicating that transfer. So I want to confirm that we still would have the opportunity, if they're providing the shuttle that connects with the transit stop, and we could do the county extension. Has that been tested?
Yeah. They do not provide a shuttle. They have a shuttle that apparently you can call and let them know that you're going to need them to pick you up at the bottom of the hill, but it's just not effective from their point of view or ours, I guess. From Mayheck's point of view.
I think, down there at that bus stop, they could put a phone down there where they could, use that shuttle service, for them to come down. Because there's not that many people to go up to Mayheck. And plus, it's hard for the 6 to go up in there anyway. It's like literally you have to wait on all the traffic to come down that hill for the 6 to go up there. And when you're coming out of there, you're taking up 2 lanes of stopping traffic to get 6 out of there. And I've never saw the reasoning in going up to May because there's nobody that gets off there. And then when you get up there and the bus has to turn around, somebody's always in the way and that slows down to 6.
Well, I think I've been thinking about what it means because I'm looking at all these numbers, like when a bus says it doesn't serve people right now, I've been trying to think about like who could it potentially serve, and Mayheck serves a lot of people. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're all using the bus right now. Mm-hmm. If the bus ran on time, if it was more effective.
That's the ifs, Kim. That's not what's going on now. That's
Oh no, I totally hear you.
God, that's reaching.
But I do know that at the time when we were going through this the first round, Terry March, who served on the Multimodal Transportation Commission, has experience working at Mayheck, and it's a lot of people who have like really intense health needs.
There's one
Pregnant
guy
women.
that rides the bus that gets off at Mayheck and gets off in the afternoon. One. Because I ride it all the time.
The other part of me is that I'm a resident of the county because I'm a resident of the city, and the fact that the county doesn't see how important it is to increase service into the county, that needs to be communicated. I want to know who the potential riders are in that neighborhood, if affordable housing is being considered in that neighborhood, if there's economic development going into that neighborhood, why it was considered in the first place, because that maybe need to be communicated more clearly to the District 1 especially that represent me of the county.
And they just now got through putting another building in there. Mayheck has a lot of money. They can run a shuttle service down to the bottom of the hill. They have the funds.
So I'm kind of hearing.
And all you had to do is put a telephone down there, or they can call the shuttle to come down that hill.
So you're
and like I
saying-
said, the 6 is just like, it's not making that turn.
So you
and it's on, and plus, if we continue to use the electric buses on the 6, that's taking a lot of energy going up that hill.
So what I'm hearing is that you would prefer us do an extension into the county without the county funding it and cut the service to Mayheck because people aren't currently riding it.
You just made everything confusing.
Well, no, right? So it's like we either get to keep Mayheck service and keep the service in the city and do really good service for the city, even if only a few people use it, or cut that and extend service into the county without the county paying for it, and the city's paying for service in the county that the county should do.
Okay, I see.
But that now I'm like, I do want that neighborhood to have bus service. I do want to show what Asheville Regional
want the
Transit
money.
looks like.
Right.
But they have to pitch in.
They have to pay for it.
And that's where I'm like,
They help pitch in.
They have to pitch in.
I'm like, if Mayheck could run the shuttle and the county was going to give funding so we could do an extension and serve
Be
more
fine.
people, I'd be great.
Yeah.
But maybe that comes later because the county's not pitching in.
Okay.
And that's kind of like our
I see
leverage.
that point.
Yeah, the best case scenario is that Mayheck runs the shuttle. We do a partnership with them, maybe put them a little bit of money if they need it to run the shuttle. That shuttle runs good, it connects with the system, and the county pays for the extension.
Yeah.
Those
That's-
things could come in the future.
That's what we want.
Right.
That's a partnership.
Can
And,
be.
yeah.
I don't know if anybody can read this, but I wanted to look at the general kind of demographics of the neighborhood that had been proposed to be extended into the county. And, there is, so this extension, let me just show you one more time. The blue is what the S6 does now, and this little nub right here goes off to Mayhack, and then it continues down to the south. The proposed is that it would go off to the west, and it would go on Long Shoals, up Brevard, and then down Clayton, I think is what it's called. And in that neighborhood, there's about 880 people, about 400 jobs. This is per census data. The poverty rate is about 5.2%. Minority population about 12%. Senior population 17.7%. Disabled population about 12.6%.
Yeah, but we're working with 10-year-old census data.
That area is completely different, I believe, right?
No, I don't think that's 10-year-old. It's probably from
2009 was the last census.
It's probably from American Community Survey data potentially, so it could be a little bit more recent. But
We do know from the consultants that they did not take into account housing trends. That's
No,
the comment
they
did make.
siloed everything in that.
well, and I know there is continued growth in that area. So
That's a huge
it's,
booming area.
I guess, right now what we're faced with is, do we do this and serve this new area without county support at this time, or do we continue to go to Mayhack, recognizing that it's not the easiest place to get up to?
I'm going to make a motion, and it may not get a second, it may not get support, and that's okay, because I could be wrong. But I'm going to make a recommendation that we accept the staff's recommendation because we need the county to participate in Asheville Regional Transit. And that means when we do extensions into the county, we need our commissioners to understand how important that is because these are the people that we could serve. And if we decide we're going to serve these people without the county's funding, then we're setting a bad precedent.
That's right.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Do we have any questions before we move into the vote?
3
then?
minutes.
No? Okay, well, we're going to do it.
There's a couple other ones too. This was just the more complicated one.
Okay, well, we got a second on this motion. Let's go ahead and vote. We'll move on to the next one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you.
Okay, we got 2 opposed. Passes on that, but passes unopposed, I guess. Or sorry, passes opposed.
What are we, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 5-2.
Okay. Moving on.
I think so.
Okay, okay. The Transit Master Plan recommends that Hall Creek no longer be served by the E2 and instead be served by the 170. That's just sort of a statement, I guess. We're not proposing to change that. However, there's one part of the recommended change in Haw Creek that when we drove it, we weren't actually able to do it. And that involves this little piece. So it recommends that the 170, when it goes through Haw Creek, that it go actually into the Spruce Hill Apartments. And we can go into it on the inbound trip, but on the outbound trip, the bus bottoms out. So what we are recommending is that when we're on the outbound trip, we don't go into the apartment complex, but we would go into it on the inbound. Do I have that right, LaShawn? Okay. And that is purely a matter of physics and the roadway grade in that location. So this is kind of more of a, we're informing you that we sort of have to make this change to the plan. And it's not, and it doesn't really matter what size of bus or what type of bus, it's all the buses hit the pavement.
On the second dot there, that is in conjunction with the top dot, or is that the alternative? I'm sorry, I need to clarify that. They're all sort of the apartments on the inbound trip.
Yeah, they're both together. So we recommend that on the outbound trip, we just continue straight and not go into the Spruce Hill apartment.
It'll go by, like, the way it go now, it'll go backwards up that, bypass Waters Road, but it just will not go on Waters Road into the apartments.
So what I'm seeing is the blue line here. Where, I was trying to make sure this is still going to service Hall Creek Elementary area and Evergreen Community School.
No.
Right, so this is what I'm saying. If we're talking about safe routes to schools and cutting close access for 2 schools, then I have to recommend against it.
Let me apologize. It's not Evergreen. That's the only school that the Transit Master Plan cut out because we're no longer servicing Bell Road. It's now Bethesda. It's what they've always.
Right.
But we didn't change that part.
So it's still serving Hall Creek Elementary? Okay. Ooh.
Any questions on that?
I don't think so. I only had the one.
Okay. Hold on, there's one more. Okay, so this one has to do with the W4, and it's not so much that the northern part of it where the Transit Master Plan proposes to go up Old County Home Road towards the schools up there, and then comes back down and goes back to New Leicester Highway and goes behind the Walgreens. It's more about that purple line that you see, which is the southern portion of Old County Home Road. That's what we currently do. The master plan actually had it not continuing to do that and just staying on New Leicester Highway, but I don't know that that was explicitly talked about. It doesn't seem to be, it's not very clear in the master plan until you look really closely at the map that it recommended not doing that purple piece, which is on the southern portion of Old County Home Road. We believe that we can still do it with the time that we have on that route, and continue to do the extension that's pictured. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think anytime you have an opportunity to maintain service instead of losing service, you should maintain it. And anytime we're going to make a cut, we just need to know what we're cutting: population, housing, jobs, access.
LaShawn, did I say something wrong? I'm looking at your face and you look
We
confused.
drove it a couple of times, but I thought we agreed that we would, for the Walgreens to sit there and then come straight back, because our E2 is where we're gonna have, we're still driving this one. No, this one is done.
Oh, are
This
we
is
still,
E1. This is the E1. This is W4 E1.
yeah.
So I thought we decided to check into Walgreens and sit there and then come straight back.
We need to coordinate with them because we're turning the bus around right outside of the store.
So if we don't get Walgreens, then we'll probably have to do this part and go into the Lewiston.
Okay, maybe I preemptively brought this up. I think we still have to drive it to make sure that we have time to do it, but the transit master plan didn't have this continuation down Old County Home Road, and I'm hoping that if there's still time on the route, when I say time, like that, I mean that it can still be on time, that we can meet on-time performance and do this whole thing. And so I think maybe we just need, it sounds like we had not yet made that decision that we would still be able to be on time. Okay. I might need to bring this one back to you guys next month. Okay, thank you. I think that was it. Those are the only
I have some more
few
questions.
things.
I know we're
Yeah.
really technically out of time. S4, so glad to see the return to Bartlett Arms. Is that timing insured? It can work? Awesome.
No? With S4?
The S4.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
S5, what's the potential ridership loss within a half mile since we're cutting?
Daily, maybe 5, maybe.
Okay. W1, so D-Review is going to change to becoming a loop, it looks like, and if so, how does that change potential ridership? Because it looks like an increase in potential ridership, and if so, that's a positive, and you should own it and take all the high fives.
I mean,
This is not gonna be
this is what the master plan recommended, so all of those questions should have been answered when they were proposed,
Should.
hopefully.
Well, I'm just saying, you
Yeah.
should take the highs you can get on.
Okay.
For W4, we already talked about that one. Really thankful for W5 service to Westgate because that increases access to food. So the W3 and W4 currently stop at Westgate, but the W5 doesn't. And it looks like W5 will now be doing Westgate. That's what it said when I read it today. Let's see.
Do you have W5 up there, Jessica?
It says W5 section with serve stops on Patton Avenue at Westgate Shopping Center. But the reason I'm asking about that is because if the W3, 4, and 5 are still going to deviate down to the River Arts District so that it can go back up and not have to transfer through 3 traffic lanes, then I would request that we go ahead, and I've asked this multiple times, but go ahead and put a River Arts District stop.
I think they took that part off, so we're going straight now.
Okay, so if there's going to be that deviation, then I would request a River Arts District stop. The reason that I was told by previous staff that that was not possible is because there's no jobs and people don't live there. And I found that personally insulting to the people who work and live there.
In the river, Arts District?
On that side, because there's going to be all those new greenways and sidewalks. I know.
Wait, I'm sorry, Kim, can you repeat what
So
you're...
if I get on the W3 or 4, W3, 4, or 5, and I'm going outbound west, the bus takes the interstate exit, goes close to the entrance of Hill Street.
Yeah.
Which means that it stops at a stop sign, waits for traffic, then gets on the exit ramp so that it doesn't have to transfer through traffic to catch the west gate. Otherwise, sometimes it currently deviates and cuts that out anyway if they're needing to make up time, and they'll just stay on the interstate. But that means crossing through 3 travel lanes on the interstate, which we all know that that's an issue, it was in the complaints. So I'm just saying, if we're doing that for a safety reason and it's going to stay, then we should add a stop there where the bus is already stopped. And I know it looks like no one walks there, but I walk there.
We had discussed no longer continuing to get off and stop at Hill Street because I think that the timing, it takes too much time. Is that
You
correct?
could potentially serve residents of Hillcrest,
Right.
anyone who's working the River Arch District, all the new service there. So I just wanted to bring that up because if it's a safety issue and it's doable, we should totally do it.
Have we driven the W5 with continuing to do the Hill Street thing?
Okay.
No, we haven't, but we haven't done Westgate either, because I didn't see that part. So we have to return W5. Actually, we're still working on this W5S2.
Right.
So that's the one we're still working on anyway, so we
Okay.
have to return to W5.
If we have the ability to continue to do what we currently do, I don't see why we wouldn't, but.
Anyway, but the W4 and the W3 did.
So yeah, for the W3 and 4 too. Yeah, W3 and 4, if you're already stopped, and there's usually so much traffic on River Road anyway, if you're already stopped, every single time I'm stopped there, I think people could be getting on and off the bus here. So definitely, you'd increase, population access. You'd get so many high fives, wins. We need some wins. And then last one, thanks for ensuring that the PVA road has close access to Ingalls, because I saw that still on there. That's it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
All right, if that's all everybody's got, we got to move into public comment real quick, because I know this guy's itching to say something. I know you had your hand up earlier, so just make sure you get in there. You get 3 minutes, and then we can adjourn after that.
I just wanted to address, Mr. Barry, you're correct as far as asking about service dogs, what task or what work they perform. Emotional dogs and support, comfort dogs are not considered service dogs. They're totally different.
That's right. That's right.
I brought my dog out.
I apologize, you heard as soon as I said.
No, that's not a problem to me. I just wanted to correct it because, I did extensive amount of reading before the end of April when I brought my dog out into public to make sure that she got along with me in public, and that was part of it. That's like some of the information you read says a miniature horse is a service animal. The service dog is the only thing service anymore. So, no big issue. I just wanted to clarify.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then
Thank you, Matthew.
One announcement, I guess I'll make as sort of a public comment, is that I really appreciate it when we all come to the table, but we don't always agree, because it makes the conversation better. But I will definitely be contacting the District 1 county commissioners if they represent the people who live in the city, as well as the chair, and let them know about our recommendation. I suggest that my colleagues here can as well, because they could make a budget amendment. I know that they've said publicly they're not making budget amendments this year, but it's going to happen every single meeting. And they can still coordinate extension with the city, so that's what I'm going to ask them to do. So there's that.
All right, anything else before we end this meeting and I got to run in the bus? Okay, nothing? All right, let's call it. Meeting adjourned.